Hello, everyone, and welcome to High Noon Podcast. This week, I am your host, the Blevins, and this is going to be a little bit of an update to just the past couple of weeks and what we're going to be doing going forward. Nothing really big to announce. It's obviously last week was BlizzCon, and with the schedule and the fact that we didn't get a ton of World Cup stuff leading up to it, we decided to take the week before off, and we were going to plan on recording when I got back. Blah 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 blah. Things came up, and we didn't record this week. We actually did record last night the episode of Omnic Noon. So our crossover with our friends Omnic Lab, which will be on this feed as well as on the Omnic Lab feed shortly. I don't know the exact timeline of that, but will be within the next couple of days, I believe. It may actually already be out on Omnic Lab feed, but that will be up here as well if you are not subscribed to them. A, you should be, but B, it will be on here as well. What this episode is going to be is actually an interview that I got to do at BlizzCon with Jon Spector, the Overwatch League head of Owl operations. Man, I'm stupid. And I don't have the notes in front of me because I'm an idiot and decided to do this cold. But you guys are used to that right by now anyway. So I'm not disappointing anyone any more than I normally do. But so this interview, I wanted to do a couple of things here. I want to give a couple of shout outs. First and foremost, thank you to Blizzard for getting me my media pass, my media badge, and allowing me to do some behind the scenes stuff at BlizzCon. Absolutely an amazing experience. Huge shout out specifically to Mark von Lommel, the head of PR for Overwatch League, who actually reached out to me and went out of his way to connect with me. I mean, he's been a listener to the show for a long time, and I know you guys, we've talked about Mark a number of times, and he's been a fan of the show for a while, just kind of randomly. And he went out of his way to ask if I wanted to do the interview with Jon, and I was kind of blown away because I'm like, well, I don't want to impose, but he actually wanted me to do the interview. So huge shout outs to Mark. Thank you so much again, Mark. It's always great to see you, and I can't wait to see you at the next event as well. So this interview was really his brainchild, and I just happened to be there and have some questions to ask him. And last shout out here is to Heroes Hearth. Hopefully this is going to be up on their channel as well. If it's not, for whatever reason, make sure you go over to heroeshearth.com and check them out. I've been doing some work with my other projects on the TFT side, mostly with them. I've been doing some casting, and they actually helped me a ton this weekend at BlizzCon with just making sure everything was good for me. They were my camera crew here, so just a huge shout out to Heroes Hearth and the whole crew there. I could not have I maybe could have done this without them, but it would have been massively scuffed, whereas it was actually a really good interview here, and we got some good audio and video because of them and in spite of me. So we're going to be doing our regular episode in just a couple of days anyway, so you're going to kind of have a nice little chunk here, kind of 3 in a row episodes for you to listen to for High Noon. And as always, guys, if you have any questions or anything, just hit us up in the Discord. More than happy to do that. But we're going to be back on a little bit more of a regular schedule here, and I hope you guys like the interview. Let us know what you think, and we will see you in the next episode. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the High Noon Hot Seat. We've been away for a while. I am your host, the Blevins, and I am joined here with Jon Spector.
Hey, how's it going, John?
Hello, John. Hello, John. I always wanted to make that joke. I don't think I've ever had anyone who's named John on the show.
Common enough name. I feel like
Yeah.
I get to make that joke a decent amount,
yeah.
actually.
Well, it's usually like, oh, hello, Striker. Hello.
Yeah, okay.
I don't go by first names. But, John, why don't you just, for the fans who are unsure, just tell us a little bit about you and your title and what you're doing with the Overwatch League.
Sure. So I'm a senior product director with the Overwatch League. I spend most of my time working on supporting and leading on competition sides of things. It's league format and rules and structure of the season and things like that. And then also do a lot of work with our teams on the operations and business side of things. It's for next year. That's really focused on helping them get ready for home matches, but also a lot of creating our roster construction rules and things like that to help the teams put together the best group of players they can.
Absolutely. And actually, let's just jump right into it, mentioning that obviously with Season 3 of Overwatch League, we're taking a very big step, at least in my opinion, going to the homestand, home and away format. And one thing that jumps to my mind immediately is, especially in Season 1, we dealt a lot with player burnout and players really being taxed in a lot of ways that maybe they weren't ready for. And I just wanted to get your thoughts on what the league is doing and maybe what the teams are doing to kind of combat that, especially when we're going from everyone being in LA the whole year to now we're traveling extensively.
Yeah. I mean, look, at the first thing I'll do is acknowledge we think it's going to be hard. This is not easy, right? And these are professional players who we just announced a couple weeks ago. They're making six-figure salaries on average, and this is their career, right? And so I think the first expectation is, some of this is hard, but you've achieved your dream. You're one of the best 200 players in the world at this game, and you have an opportunity to showcase those skills in front of millions of fans all over the world. But that said, yes, we're acutely aware of a lot of those types of logistics issues, and I think feel pretty good about some of the measures we put in place for next year. So on the league side of things, a couple things that we've done, going from the first season to the 2019 season, we took match count from 40 to 28, and we added some bye weeks for teams. And we're going to continue to bring that forward into the 2020 season. So we kept the 28 match structure. Teams have bye weeks interspersed throughout the season where, we had a tough road trip, but now we're going back home and we can rest up for 2 weeks before we have to get back out and compete. I think that's going to be helpful. The other thing that we've really focused on as we built the 2020 plan and schedule, and one of the reasons that we like the format of many teams traveling to one place is, despite teams playing 28 games all over the world next year, they're not taking 28 trips.
Right.
And in many cases, even if you take a team on the East Coast, for instance, take New York, right? What does New York season look like? Well, if they're playing teams in China, they're taking one trip to China all year, right? They have one 14-hour flight, and that's hard. And the players and their teams are going to need to support them on that, help them get some sleep. But if they're playing matches on a Saturday and a Sunday in China, they'll probably fly on the Monday before. They'll get in on Tuesday. They'll have a couple of days to adjust to the time zone and to practice on site. And then their next event, if they're in Shanghai that weekend, will be in Hangzhou, which is an hour train ride away.
Right.
We're not sending them to Shanghai for a week, telling them, go back to New York and play a match there, and now you're going to Seoul. It's, let's have all of those regional trips. And so they might be on the road for 3 weeks in a row, but it's an easier set of travel versus bouncing back and forth. And so we've tried to be really thoughtful about that. But I also, it's going to be hard, and I think a lot of the burden falls on teams and their staff to find ways to make sure that players are getting enough sleep and that they're balancing all of their practice commitments with feeling ready to go and take the stage on game day. And one of the things that I think we'll see next year is teams that are better at that will probably perform better on stage, and they're all going to be learning from each other. You bet the first team that figures out some way to make this easier, 19 other teams are going to copy that the next week.
Right. Yeah, definitely. So that actually kind of makes me think, you mentioned like that part of it, the player prep is on the team side versus on the Overwatch League side. Is compared to maybe the previous two seasons, is the league itself taking more of a hands-off approach on that sort of handling of the teams and how they deal with that, or is it still the same? It's just going to feel a little bit different?
Yeah, we with all the players now headed back home and with teams running the events next year, there's definitely a shift in I'd say the amount of responsibility that the league holds versus the teams. But we've from day one, we've been working with the teams as partners to get them ready to take on that responsibility. We the 3 events that we partnered with Dallas, Atlanta, and the Valiant on last year were really the number one goal of those events was to get ready for 2020. And so after each of those events, we met with all of those teams. We said, what did we learn from this? What do we do better next time? What can 17 other teams that didn't have this experience last year learn from it? And so we on the league side of things are working really hard to provide support, guidance, and also a set of standards for teams that they'll need to adhere to create great events for their fans, to take care of their players. But yeah, it really is, the teams are going to be responsible for delivering that experience around the world.
Yeah, definitely makes a lot of sense. And we even saw between those different homestand events a little bit of a different feel and a different vibe and a different portrayal of that. So.
I love that personally.
Yeah,
That's actually, I think, taking the same show to 19 different cities around the world, I don't think that actually works that well. The thing that I'm really excited to see, like, what does a Seoul Dynasty home weekend look like?
Right.
And how do you integrate aspects of Korean culture into that and make it a really fun experience there? There's been so many amazing esports events in Korea, but never an Overwatch League one. And
Right.
I can't wait to... fans in Seoul are in for a treat when they see what that experience is like. But that probably should be a different experience than what fans in New York are going to want to see when they come out to matches there. And I think that's a great thing about our global league.
Yeah, and as someone from Buffalo, the Buffalo Bills experience is definitely different than many other, for better or for worse.
And it's where fan rituals come from, and the song that you sing at different breaks, or what you do pregame. But one of the things that I love as a sports fan is just seeing all the ridiculous, like, game break entertainment that teams come up with when the Nationals started doing the president race around the outfield of, like, it's amazing. You can't do that anywhere in the country except for Washington D.C.
Right.
But it works perfectly there.
Yeah.
They have their baby shark thing going throughout the playoffs this year, which again, good for them that they've created a tradition that their fans are excited about. It's I'm in Boston now these days, and despite being a big Yankee fan, I think it's pretty cool when they get up and do Sweet Caroline. Like and so those types of rituals, I think, and fans being able to experience everything that's been amazing about Overwatch League the last couple of years, but with a real local flavor, I think it's going to be amazing.
Yeah, it's absolutely a completely different experience. I mean, even going to Fenway or going to Yankee Stadium is completely different too. In that vein, I guess specifically talking with New York and Boston, the baseball teams, one thing that we've talked about on the show a lot is at a higher level, passion from the fans and really being a team fan, not just an Overwatch League fan. I mean, we're watching the World Cup. This is a perfect example. We've got the sections for Korea, for U.S., for Denmark, and when it's all at the Blizzard Arena, it's, everyone is just happy to be there. We're happy to see live games, but it's a different feel when it's the battle for LA or those rivalries. And I just want to get your thoughts on, how do you feel about, like, that sort of passion for the game? And one thing that we have been maybe not criticized for, but some people don't like what our opinion on it is, like booing and like that sort of real engagement with the fans. Because you go to any home game of traditional sports, they're going to be booing the away team, and that's just not really something we see, at least at that sort of scale in esports. And I'm curious what your thoughts are on that.
Esports typically don't have home games, right? It's, to your point, it's you've got, in the last couple of years, most of our events have been a group of fans coming out to Blizzard Arena that just want to see all the teams play. And obviously the Valiant and Gladiators have sort of had, as particularly in Battle for LA matches, they've had that hype, Valiant versus Gladiators cheering sections and things like that, which is
shields up, wings out,
amazing. But like I got chills sitting in the arena in Dallas and watching the Fuel walk out, and you had 4,000 fans on their feet, and the team takes the stage to blue pyrotechnics. Like, it was amazing, and that's the sort of thing that you don't get without that local connection and that passion for the city and the team. And personally, I think it's amazing. And from having talked to all the players who had a chance to experience that, particularly the ones from Dallas and Atlanta, where they took the stage to thousands of cheering fans who were there to watch them win. They've talked a lot about what that energy from the fans meant to them, and how they played the best matches that they played. And Atlanta, when they came home, they were in a rough patch, and they won 2 matches and then went like undefeated through the rest of the season. It's amazing what that energy and that support can do. And if that means that when the Valiant took the stage in Dallas, that the fans made it known that they would in fact like the Valiant to choke and lose, like I think that's part of that local passion, and something that's really cool about the home and away model.
Yeah, absolutely. That's that's obviously what we think, considering that when someone is in Ralph Wilson Stadium, it's or I guess it's New Era Field now, it's definitely known when you're not the home team.
It's a real advantage too, right?
Yeah.
It's conversely, right? You come up on stage and you've got fans cheering for your opponent. Like that's a skill that our players are going to have to learn, is that fortitude to take the stage when you're a little bit of the villain, and to still perform at the highest level. And I think players will pretty quickly get used to that. They have in every other environment where you've got a home and an away team, but that may be a little bit of an adjustment too for them.
So at the end of the regular season this year, we got that nice post from Mr. X kind of going over some of the logistics, and we had some median like player salaries and that, and really kind of peeled back a little bit of a layer of the transparency. But from where we're coming from the traditional sports side, I can't Google how much does Sinatra make and like what's his deal. Whereas if I Google LeBron James, I know like all that sort of information and like coaching moves and different staff moves. Is there any plans, or I guess maybe philosophy behind the sort of lack of transparency from the Overwatch League side compared to something like traditional sports?
Yeah, I mean, look, the short answer is that post that we shared at the end of the season that Mr. X helped with was basically the step that we were comfortable taking, and the short answer I'll give you is that our legal team was comfortable with us.
What do you mean it's the lawyers that are keeping us from knowing more?
And it's so look, I'm a traditional sports fan too. I think it's cool as you're speculating on roster moves to understand, okay, did my team sign that guy because they thought he was the best, or did they sign him because they spent the budget on this other player, and this is the backup, and so okay, that makes sense now. And I think that context is helpful and interesting for fans. But from where we're at today and the structure we have, we've shared what we can on that.
Okay, that makes sense. I mean, it was great to get that information. Last question here that I know a lot of the fans of our Fantasy Overwatch League show will kill me if I don't ask, is there any sort of plans for an official Fantasy Overwatch League through the actual league? We obviously have some great fan-made sites, and when we interviewed Nate 2 years ago, he said that was something that was in the pipeline, and we got sort of the pick'ems on Twitch, but I'm just kind of wondering if that's something that's in the pipeline, or
yeah, we continue to evaluate all of those types of things. League picks, last year we beta launched that really as a test, right, to see is this the sort of thing that our fans think is engaging and fun and want to be doing as they watch our matches. And the feedback on it was generally really positive, but we also learned a lot about how do you iterate on that and make it a little bit better. And so what I'd say is on fantasy, that type of league picks experience, all of those types of things, we don't have anything to announce about it today in terms of, hey, this is what's happening tomorrow, but it's certainly on our radar. And hearing from our fans about what they want, and hearing from you guys about how we continue to make your experience as fans of Overwatch League better, like that's feedback that's really helpful for us as we shape that vision. And I think you're going to continue to see us experiment with different things here and try to get a better sense of, hey, what's the thing that works really well here. I've seen too with a bunch of other esports, right, where they've launched a fantasy product and not gotten it right and walked it back and needed to do it differently. And I think for us that approach of testing different things out, gathering fan feedback, and then moving forward in a direction from there feels a little bit better to me.
Yeah, that's great. Well, John, that's all the time we have for today. Thank you so much for taking the time to jump in the High Noon hot seat, and hopefully we'll get to talk to you later in Season 3.
Sounds great. Thanks so much. Enjoy the rest of BlizzCon.
I'm going to try.